Good morning, everybody. How are you? It's a pleasure. I'm Kimberly Britton. I'm your moderator today. I'd like to ask my panel to come join me, please. Come on up. It's hard to hear down there. So we're going to be talking about customer engagement and doing it a little differently than the traditional utility model. So y'all come on down. Yes, pick your color of chair that you really want. Okay. I've had so much fun preparing for this conversation today. Make sure I can see all of you. And this is a really important topic. I spend a lot of time working with our clients and having conversations about how they're engaging with their customers. And it's really vital. The people aspect of this, I can tell you, I don't think I've heard one panel or one speaker not allude to the importance of the people piece of all of this, both your workforce and then also your customers. So let's talk about how you're breaking the mold in terms of the normal transactional model in terms of customer engagement and how you're thinking creatively about that. So let's get started. I'd love for you to just run down and tell your name and your title and what you do. So let's start with you.
Sure. Good morning, everyone. So Jeff Sheb, and I'm with Landis+Gyr, and I'm the head of solutions, technology, and innovation there.
Great.
I'm Jason Ryan, Executive Vice President at Centerpoint Energy. Centerpoint has electric and gas utility companies throughout the Mid-Continent.
Morning, Emeka Anyanwu. I'm with Lincoln Electric System. Lincoln Electric System is a municipal utility in the state capital of Nebraska. About 154,000 metered customers, population about 330 people, and yeah, trying to figure things out as we go forward.
Good morning. I'm Cheryl Davis with Georgia Power Company. We have the pleasure of serving 2.7 million customers in the state of Georgia. The team that I lead is called Managed Accounts. So all large C&I customers come to my team, which is comprised of key account managers and their support reps. We handle roughly 1,000 customers that bring a megawatt or greater load to the system.
So my first question is about redefining what engagement actually means. You know, as I said, moving from that transactional model to a more relational model. So let's talk about some examples of initiatives that you've implemented that have fostered that deeper relationship with your customers. So Cheryl, why don't you lead us off on that?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So up until about 2.5 years ago, the key account model was segmented, meaning you had key account managers that handled municipalities or universities or schools or hospitals or pulp or paper. And for years, this was a highly effective model. 2.5 years ago, we had a need to create efficiencies in the company, as many of us go through. And during that time, we were charged with eliminating over a third of our team. So how are you going to do that and still serve your customers with excellence? So at that time, we decided to break into a hybrid model, region-based local CAMs serving both commercial and industrial customers, and a virtual team. We had never contemplated or tried a virtual team. So, and I'll tell you, our metric for measuring customer satisfaction is the Net Promoter Score, which for those who are not familiar with that, the scale is -100 to 100. Now, in our segmented model, we enjoyed scores NPS around 66. When we went to the region and virtual model, we found out that the region-based portion of that model was very successful, and I'll tell you why. It gave us the ability to form tight units with power delivery, with region external representatives, with customer service, transmission, substation in the backyard of the customer. So that led to a highly efficient model, and people knew each other and formed bonds. So the sense of urgency was shared. Also important that at least monthly, everyone sat around the same table to discuss customer projects, reliability issues, with just this strong focus on the customer. So coming out of that part of the model, our NPS scores increased to around 68, which was great. Now let's talk about the virtual team. Bearing in mind, this was done for the sake of efficiency, and our hypothesis was if people are dealing with customers virtually, computer, phone, email, they will be able to take on a larger portfolio of customers. Less people, so the customers had to migrate to a different channel. So we felt secure in trying this because during COVID, we operated that way and our customers were accepting of that. However, when we went back to a more normal world, we found our customers did not want to be handled virtually. We also found that our virtual key account managers were unable to form relationships in the way that our region-based key account managers were. So after a year of this experiment, we got our annual NPS score for that virtual team, and it was a 33. That's not good. So we knew we had to pivot and we had to better meet the needs of our customers. The other feedback we were given from some very large multi-site customers was, that's great that you have a region model. We don't want to talk to 7 different CAMs just because we have different facilities across your footprint. We want one person to talk to. So we had to zoom out and take a look at how can we readjust to provide our customers with better value. So now 80% of our CAMs are region-based. 20% are handling segmented customers that are very large and have a multiple facility footprint across the state of Georgia. We think we've got it right. First quarter scores for NPS, 91.3, the highest we have ever achieved, which is very exciting. So we think that the more that we can listen to our customers and adjust strategy and structure to better serve them, the better off we are.
That is phenomenal. And I appreciate that you shared what didn't work. You know, so often at these conferences, we have a chance to hear the great outcomes, but not everything works, right? And so thank you for being transparent about that. Anybody else about how you've redefined your customer engagement? Who else? Jason, you have something?
All right.
I know you did.
I'll start. So I mentioned we have electric and gas utilities in our company. I'll focus for this one on the transmission and distribution utility on the electric side that we operate down in Houston, where we have the privilege to serve almost 3 million homes and businesses there. We don't have the commercial relationship with the customer, though. Unlike most parts of the country where you've got integrated utilities and they actually send a bill to the customer and have the interaction, they know who the customer is, right? We're a bit divorced from that direct relationship. We know we have a meter at 1234 Main Street. We don't necessarily know who's there because there's a different market participant that has that commercial relation. We don't send a bill. We send a bill to the retail provider, right? So over time, that construct was implemented in 2001 in ERCOT. Over time, over that almost 25 years, I'd say we lost focus on the direct consumer of the energy that we're delivering because we didn't have that relationship with them. So it is obvious now, right, that we exist to provide service to customers, not to meters. But that was a culture that happened over time that we have now started to really change that. You know, the utilities mission is, I think, what attracts most of our employees to this business. We provide critical infrastructure for a critical commodity that enables everyday life. It enables the largest medical center on the planet to attempt to cure cancer. Right? It enables whatever it is that you want to do every day for you to do that in the comfort of your home. And so we've really started to bring that mission back into our company's culture. And it has improved how we interact with our customers, not with our meters, but with our customers who are doing good things with their families, with their businesses. And that has helped us really rethink how we, even the most basic things like service windows for an appointment, where historically we evolved to, 8 to 5, somewhere between 8 and 5, we will show up, maybe. Because if we get pulled off for an emergency somewhere else, we're going to skip your appointment because we're dealing with an emergency. We're not going to tell you that we're not coming. You just will not see us between 8 and 5, even though you took off all day, right? So that's kind of where our company evolved to being more transactional, because we don't have that direct customer relationship. In order to get our employees thinking about how to improve the customer experience, we started out by talking about our customers being at the center of everything we do, kind of a play on our company name at Centerpoint. Even our commercials focused on that. That wasn't enough, though, speaking of failures, right? We had to do more than that. So we've started talking this year about being obsessed with our customers. So not a word that our employees hear every day, that management is obsessed with something. They might accuse us of that behind our backs. But talking about being obsessed with our customers to swing the pendulum a little bit too far maybe, and just to make the point that we have customers, not meters. We have to improve the experience that our customers have. We have to use technology to do that. I'll talk about Domino's Pizza maybe. It's not great pizza, but a great customer experience on their app. You know exactly where your pizza is in the process of it being made. You know exactly what block it's on its way to your house. And that obsession with our customers is causing our employees to look at using technology that's not new. It's just new to us as we transform from being transactional to being focused on the customer experience.
So you lead us exactly to the right place for our next conversation, which is personalization at scale, right? And so using technology, but also keeping that personal touch. So I'd love to ask you, Emeka, how you guys are scaling and yet remaining personal with your customers.
Yeah, thank you. I'm kind of sitting here trying to figure out what's going to happen when Jason keeps talking about serving customers, not meters, with the meter guy sitting right next to him.
And Emeka, get on mic just a little more so we can hear you really well.
So, I have the privilege, we have the privilege of serving a community, right? So one of the things that's unique about public power, of course, is that our customers are never too far away, right? We often say not just our customers, we talk about the community we serve, the communities we serve. We are simultaneously, obviously, navigating all of the same pressures and transformation. We're a fully vertically integrated utility, right? So we run generation, transmission, distribution. And yet, so we have all of the complexities, and yet we are doing it sort of in this community where we are very connected. And so personalization for us both is simultaneously very traditional. We're one of those, like many public power utilities, one of those utilities that still maintains a live, lobby where people can walk in and pay their bill and interact with a human being every day, right? And yet it's certainly true that we have to innovate to what the new generation of customers has. So late last year in September, we launched our customer portal, LES's first customer portal. And we've seen sort of remarkable kind of transition for our customers. So we have 4 personas within our portal, in which because we have different kinds of customers interacting with our systems every day. So we have landlords, right, who may want to manage multiple properties, right? And so they get to have a certain kind of persona, a certain kind of account, and they can sort of personalize their experience. We have agencies, which are, we work through a lot of community-based organizations for our bill assistance program. And so we allow them to be able to manage those sort of directly. And then we have, sort of individual residential and commercial accounts in which, so you create this opportunity for customers to have the experience they want, to be able to use the most modern interactions and technology. And yet at the same time, the reality is that the model hasn't really changed for us in terms of, how we engage customers. We just have been through a series of public meetings for our strategic planning effort. And again, the best and richest feedback we got was sitting down with people directly. There was a great sort of conversation yesterday during the first panel yesterday talking about how you don't create a strategic plan and then try to convince your customers that you're doing the right thing. And we've sort of really modeled that, and we've sort of really engaged our customers in a way that we can reflect what they personally care about in our strategy.
That is terrific. Anybody else have an example of that personalization at scale? Good. Okay, then we'll move on to our next question. Proactive solutions. This is really important to me because so often I think our industry has waited until our customers pull or push, So what is being done to be more proactive about how you engage and reach out, anticipating their needs before they even know that they need it? So Jason, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, and I'll do a plug for meters real quick too. We're working on some exciting things at the company, but almost 15 years ago now, I guess, we started the journey on the electric side, putting digital meters in place of the old meters that spun around. And that allowed us to start the journey of being more proactive with our customers, where we can send them a text or an email or make a phone call and say, we know your power's out. You don't have to call us. Right? And that both led to a better customer experience because they're not having to call and wait on hold to tell us something. Instead, we communicate through the channel that they want with the fact that we know that they're out and they don't have to call us. That also leads to efficiencies. You don't have to have as many people in the call center. That reduces costs. That reduces the customer bill. So all in a good outcome. We are now embarking on doing that same kind of thing for our gas customers. So we're one of the largest gas utilities in the country. We serve customers from Minnesota down to the Gulf Coast. But we haven't installed that kind of technology until now. What that kind of technology on the gas side can do is advise customers that they may have something, a problem on their side of the meter, and avoid a real safety problem. You could have a customer that replaces a washer and dryer, and maybe they went from a gas dryer to an electric one, and maybe they forgot to turn off the gas valve that fed that gas dryer, and there's just gas that's flowing into the home. And now flowing more than it would be if the appliance was being used. And you can look at examples across the country where that exact scenario has resulted in a home exploding. The gas meters that we're putting in now will detect that unusual gas flow, shut off immediately, alert the customer, allow us to go talk to the customer about what we're seeing. So not only a better customer experience, but a real safety benefit. So we're excited about putting those meters into our customers' homes. But set aside the meter infrastructure, we're using technology more and more to help customers tell us, essentially crowdsourcing information about what's going on our system. So it works both ways. So you can now upload pictures of something at your home or business that might be causing a problem, whether it's a tree on a power line. Is it a tree on a power line, or is it a tree on a cable line that doesn't really require us to run a truck and is not creating a problem, right? So customers now have the ability to send us that information, and in a large-scale weather event, like a hurricane hitting Houston, that's going to be incredibly valuable as we try to prioritize the calls that come in prior to us using that technology, where we can't visually see what's going on at the customer premise. We have to roll a truck, and again, maybe we're rolling a truck and it's just a cable line that was taken out by a tree, not a power line, and now we've wasted time dealing with some infrastructure that's not ours, where we could have addressed a real safety issue. So that information flowing back to us now, and us using technology to help prioritize our work, is an exciting thing as we, again, start to engage our customers and use the same kind of technology that other companies do to make their processes and workflows better. So I could continue to go on with examples, but I'll stop and let other panelists talk.
No, that's great. You continue to set us up for the next part of our conversation. You're doing a great job. Thank you. So this leads us to Jeff, right? So your perspective is a little different at Landis+Gyr, and certainly his mention about the meters and implementing that work on the gas side is really important. So talk to me about how Landis+Gyr sees its service to the utility industry to help them leverage these emerging technologies, whether it's AI or just, your typical sort of work, and how that's affecting customer engagement for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jason,
Come up on mic for me.
yeah, Jason mentioned a couple good aspects there in terms of how operational and safety aspects play into that overall consumer experience as well. And you mentioned a couple things, right, like proactive detection of outages. We'll be able to see distributed intelligence and AI helping to better localize those outages as well. So kind of playing off that operational. But when we talk emerging technologies and consumer engagement, two big ones that would come to mind. AI certainly can imagine, digital CX platforms incorporating AI in a lot of different ways, right? And improved chatbot experiences, recommending rate plans, all kinds of things there. As Jason noted, I'm the metering guy. My background is primarily IoT, so that's where I'm most excited, is kind of how the connected grid edge can be leveraged, not just for operational and safety, but for consumer engagement. When I say connected grid edge, certainly I'm talking about AMI and smart meters, so-called AMI 2.0 meters in particular. But also we see other devices coming into play today. Smart electric panels, as an example. It sits on the grid edge. It's consumer facing. So all of these, bring higher granularity, kind of higher resolution and sampling rates, distributed computing, and Wi-Fi connectivity. So now you've opened up a new avenue for utilities to interface with consumers in a much more kind of real-time manner. In the past, you may have kind of a retrospective monthly view of your energy usage as a consumer. Where did it go? Kind of load disaggregation. Companies like Sense and there's others who have real-time load disaggregation that can run on the grid edge. So you can, as a consumer, have mobile apps that are showing you kind of in real time devices that you're using, where your energy usage is going. That kind of opens the door for other kinds of proactive real-time notifications, kind of alerts on your energy use. Are you trending high? Maybe you set some thresholds up. At the end of the day, all of this, leads to a more knowledgeable, empowered and energy conscious consumer. So I think that's one of the most exciting areas from my perspective.
That's great. And so implementing all of this is amazing and wonderful, but how do you know that you've been successful? And so Cheryl, earlier you gave a metric about the improvement for you guys. So what other KPIs or what other metrics have you implemented? What have you abandoned in that process as well? What do you find effective?
Great question. Thank you. So, if you think about it, customer feedback is such a gift, but lagging indicators like NPS and JD Power, as an example, they will tell you what you did, but they don't give you necessarily the opportunity to correct real time. So we spend a lot of time thinking about leading indicators because customers don't always tell you, but you can look at the data and you can hear them in that way. So if you think about our call center, average speed of answer is obviously an important metric. And first call resolution, which we still track, was something that we were tied to for years. But we've moved to also look at first channel resolution. So if you think about the customer that goes onto your website and they are unable to do what they wanted to do, or through the mobile app, and then they have to call you, that isn't good for them, and it's not good for you either, because the call is the most expensive channel that the customer can operate in, and it's not where they want you to meet them. They wanted to handle their issue without speaking to anyone. So those leading indicators that can give you a preview of whether or not the customer is going to be satisfied are critical. Maybe it's a problem with your website. Maybe it's a problem with the app. You have to peel back the layers and determine what's going on with that. And I'll give you an example. Another KPI that we use in the customer service world is the longest call holding. We noticed a pattern of long calls at a certain time during the day, and it was disrupting the rest of the metrics. So when we peeled back the onion and took a really hard look at the operations, we discovered that there was a problem with a shift change. In order to solve that problem, we had to bring in a couple of additional representatives to be staffed through that gap. That is something we would not have known had we not been looking at the metrics. In the key account world, we use leading indicators around responsiveness to customers. We have key account managers that are on call 24/7 to respond to outages through a phone line that is set up specifically for those customers, and the key account managers have goals of answering those calls. We have metrics around participation in storms, because that is when our customers need us most, and we want to be there for them. So I think the more that you can really look at your leading indicators to give you the opportunity to make adjustments operationally, the better you will operate. Additionally, we offer a lot of customer-facing programs, energy efficiency being an area that's a good example of that. We're very tuned into adoption of those programs, and when we see areas where the take rate is not what we felt like it should be, again, we have to dive in and find out why. Now, if you're really smart, you pilot those ideas prior to full launch, right? So you've got an early indicator of what's going to work and what maybe isn't going to work. Those are some lessons learned through time. But of course, as any utility, we love our metrics, but thinking deeper about the leading and lagging metrics, I think, is an important part of success.
That's super. I just want to let the audience know, as usual, if you have any questions for our panel, I'll look to you then. If you'll move to the front table near the mic, that would be very helpful. So, Emeka, I know you have some metrics to talk about.
Yeah. Also, I mean, while we wait for questions, I'll just say, one of the interesting things about the environment that we operate in, right? Again, as I said, it's a very sort of close community, right? And so for us, our metrics don't have to be particularly exotic, right? So I talked about the portal. One of the things that we have seen is really, so I mentioned, right, we have about 154,000 metered customers. Since the portal launch in mid-September of last year, we have about 61,000 people signed up to use the portal. About 60,000 of those are auto pay. And so, the interesting thing that happens when you track usage statistics like that is that you sort of can discern, to your point about leading indicators, what are the things that customers want? Because at the same time as we exist in a community, again, where we do have a fairly steady stream, I spend time at our service center where our lobby is, steady stream of folks who come in and want to do business in person. We also have Lincoln, Nebraska is home of a state flagship university. So we have also a lot of young folks in our population who want to interact with the utility digitally. And so, you start to sort of look for those behavioral patterns. We have been tracking now for the last couple of large storms, an increasing sort of drumbeat of interest from our customers about estimated restoration times, right? Many of your utilities probably have already implemented these things, but as we sort of try to level up, we're looking for those patterns of questions that are being asked, and so we track sort of social media hits and social media comments on specific things that are going on in storm restoration, and we use those things to inform the way we approach those tactically.
That's really great. Anybody else on metrics, KPIs?
Yeah, I'll say a couple things. We've really evolved how we use metrics as part of our obsession with our customers. So our senior leadership team gets together literally every day for 15 minutes. Right now at 10:30 every morning, so I'm missing it. I've got a substitute there for me. And we look at various metrics. You can't manage what you don't measure. And we've determined over the course of the last number of months that we're measuring the wrong things and managing those things that are the wrong things. And you only make that revelation when you look at trends and you might be improving on those metrics, but you're not changing the customer experience. And so you have to be willing to then throw all that out. What do we need to measure that's different to change the customer experience? So I'll give you an example. So if you're familiar with the electric utility industry, you know the SAIDI and SAIFI terms, right? You're measuring system average frequency, which is the SAIFI metric, and SAIDI is the duration metric, right? So what on average is happening in terms of outages for duration and frequency. And as the trend line goes down, you think you're doing really well, right? We have to report those metrics to our regulators. But we noticed that our customer escalations were not going down at all, even though we make material improvements over time in those metrics. And it's because system average is interesting, but it doesn't address a customer that might be having 25 outages a year that are super annoying, super brief, and that's not being picked up when you're looking at those system averages. A customer can be very forgiving in a major storm that they're out for 2 hours. Super unforgiving to have dozens of 15-minute outages, right? Especially as people have increased working at home. So we determined we're not measuring the right thing. If we're trying to get a better customer experience, we need to be laser focused on those customers that are having an extreme number of outages, very low duration. But if you're not measuring that, you're not managing it. So one thing that we've evolved in terms of our company's thinking is that it's okay to throw metrics away, even if you've been using them for a really long time, if they're not helping you deliver a better customer experience. We can't stop measuring SAIDI and SAIFI. We still have to report on those to our regulators, but it's not the main focus of what we look at every day. Another thing that we added was what's our first call resolution rate when a customer calls in? We didn't measure that before, but we started saying we're getting escalations significant, like by email, phone calls. I can't tell you how many a day I get and other senior leaders at our company get at customers that are frustrated, calling for the 15th time to get something done. We weren't measuring anything to help us manage that. So we started looking at what's our first call resolution rate when a customer calls in versus those customers that have to call a dozen or more times, right? And then what processes are broken that's causing that? And again, if you don't measure it, you're not managing it. And so we threw other metrics away. Average speed of answer is a really good metric in a call center. But if you're answering super fast and not resolving the issue for the 15th time, that metric isn't telling you how well you're doing, right? So again, we've gotten comfortable setting those aside. We need to not lose sight of it, but what are the metrics that we can actually use to help deliver a better customer experience? So let's look at that every day until we solve that, and then we'll pick another metric to look at every day until we solve that one.
That's a great point. So we're coming down to our finish line, and I want you to have enough time to talk about this. So I ask you to think about you're in this audience that has a big impact on this industry. And what is your aspiration that you would love to see? Let's say we all came back here in 5 years. What is your charge to this industry in terms of engaging with customers? What should be different because of what you're doing and they're doing today that doesn't exist now? I'm giving you a minute to think more about this. So who's going to lead off? Oh, come on.
Jump in.
Go.
I can jump in on that. So one of the challenges I think all organizations, including utilities, face is kind of siloed thinking. And so we can think of consumer engagement as being the purview of one specific team or function, and really everything can impact consumer satisfaction, but also consumer engagement can be leveraged in different ways by utilities. So we all know about the challenges of load growth, and a lot of that can be residential and adoption of EVs and, behind meter DERs and things like that, putting strain on the grid. So I would kind of challenge to think about consumer engagement as enabling new avenues for shaping and shifting load to kind of meet that demand. Think of consumer engagement as a strategic asset that can also be, employed to solve broader challenges on the grid.
That's a great point. So using that process to shape behavior, essentially. Great. Cheryl, you set up, so I figured you got something to contribute.
So I was thinking about when you think about as a leader, the legacy that you hope to leave. And for me, I really do hope that I'm able to develop leaders and employees that are truly passionate about serving the customer, because if you ever go away from keeping the customer at the center of everything that you do, you're on the wrong path. We are there to serve them. And I love the example of we serve customers, not meters, right? That is just so very true. And when we think about the challenges moving forward, the exponential growth, the capacity and the generation required to serve that group, I hope that we are able to partner with our customers in a way that we can help each other solve those problems. I hope that we can effectively use data and technology to improve the customer experience, because over time, our customers' expectations have really changed. And even when you think about generation portfolios, right? Nuclear, coal, gas, renewables, those expectations have changed. So I want us to be able not only to deliver a clean and safe and reliable and affordable product, I want us to be able to help our customers with their sustainability goals and walk them through that journey and be their trusted energy advisors. So lots of hopes for the future. I think that interactions such as ETS give us the opportunity to learn from each other. So happy to be able to learn from all the folks in this room.
Great. Emeka?
Yeah, I think from my perspective, there's a little bit of what's old is new, right? So, part of what's certainly true for all of us is that, and we are seeing this now, right? In terms of what it takes for our customers, our communities to facilitate their lives, right? Our product has never been more important than ever. Sometime in the next, I don't know, pick your target time, next couple of decades, next quarter century, the majority of my customers will not be able to get a vehicle that doesn't need to plug into our system somewhere. And so it then becomes part of our job to make sure that they have access to that and that every customer has access to it. You know, our obligation to serve begins to extend to those things. So for me, I think, and it's a little bit along the lines of what Cheryl is saying, which is sort of not losing sight, but there's a really distinct thing that I feel like needs to happen as we navigate the transformation we're going through in our industry, that we never lose sight of the fact that there's a saying that's fairly common in the industry, right? Nobody buys our product. They buy what it allows them to do. They buy what it allows them to, the way it allows them to facilitate their lives. And so, you know, whether we are talking about customers sort of participating in their own energy use, we're talking about energy management tools through demand side management, we're talking about electric vehicle charging, we're talking about home electrification. You know, all of those things are about creating a certain quality of life for our customers. And, you know, for me, I think the most important thing we can do as we think about customer engagement is never forget the legacy of what our industry was, which was about facilitating those lifestyles.
That's great. All right, Jason, bring us home.
Yeah, real quick. What I look forward to seeing is a much more resilient grid, transmission, and increasingly distribution. Building off of the Encore presentation before we came on, I think it's incredibly important, in particular in our Houston-based utility, that we accomplish that. You know, our customers are increasingly reliant on the grid. Electrification of our lives has happened, right, and continues to increase. But more importantly, our customers are investing in equipment that puts power on the grid through the distribution system, which was not built for that. So now, you know, we've gone from throwing extension cords to customers to plug into our grid to now that extension cords are working both ways. And it needs to be more resilient when you're using the grid that way. So I think foundationally seeing the resilience of the grid improve to enable what our customers ultimately want to do with the grid is something I'm excited about seeing.
Awesome. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you, panel.